minimize your case claims when insurance companies use computer software while reviewing your claim. We're here talking with California trial lawyer Mark C. Blane, who's also the co-author of the best-selling book Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. In the first part, we went over some of the backstory and some of the important things that you need to do after you get into an accident. Here in part two, we're going to talk about Mark's discovery of these software programs that insurance companies are using during your claims process. So, Mark, in the book, in the chapter, you mentioned that over 70% of insurance companies are using computer software to determine case value. Should we be shocked at that number? And what do we as victims of an accident need to understand about the magnitude of this software?
Yeah, absolutely. Injured consumer needs to understand that with the advent of technology, long gone are the days of tripling the medical expenses to equal the settlement value of a given claim, injury claim. Today, the name of the game is to achieve maximum settlement value on a personal injury case is all evidence-based medical documentation, as I briefly outlined in the previous questions in part one. But it's no surprise that this is how claims value to an injury case is reviewed, since we have now computerized everything effectively. In fact, the claims adjuster has no problem paying what this computer program tells him or her to pay on a given injury. The difficulty or challenge is obtaining the medical evidence and making sure the claims adjuster is properly adjusting the claim. As an injured victim of an accident, your best protection, both medically and legally, is to get good medical care as soon as possible and treat consistently until released from all medical care.
I think that's a really good overview as we start to talk about this software and we start to take some of the human element away from your claim. But, you know, before we really dive into the dirty details of this software, you have a really great story of how you learned about it. So I'd love for you to share this with everyone listening today so they can get a sense of what it's like from your side of the table.
Absolutely. I first learned of the insurance computer software programs when I started practicing personal injury law in San Diego, California back in 1999. I heard rumors of a mysterious computer program known as Colossus that claims adjusters would quietly use to come up with first offers on an injury claim. The program is actually named after the giant Greek statue that stood guard over the Greek island of Rhodes as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Well, one day I was on the telephone negotiating an injury claim with a very good claims adjuster that I had known for a couple of years here in town and that I had come to respect. Yet that particular day, he did something that I thought was very strange and unconventional. While I was on the phone with him, he actually asked me for very precise information found only in the medical chart notes of my client, which I quickly provided to him. Immediately, his settlement offer to my client changed from one amount to a dramatically increased amount. I remember asking him what he did to move the number so dramatically and so quickly, and he simply responded, "Mark, you simply gave me what I needed to compute data on my end to come up with value on your client's case." This claims adjuster didn't remain long with the same insurance company, and I now finally look back at that experience as the time when a claims adjuster was really telling me in not so many words that he was using a computer program that needed certain data in order to substantiate a certain claim value for the settlement. So this experience motivated me to investigate the intriguing computer program known as Colossus, and I knew this knowledge could help my injured clients one injury case at a time. And so the information I gained about the computer programs in my research led me to understand that how they work and how they're used by the various insurance companies throughout the United States and also throughout the world, really. I mean, this is not just limited to the United States. And so my research brought me to some vital information that I got from really four sources, and those include dissatisfied former insurance claims adjusters, insurance defense lawyers. I also got information leaked out from insurance bad faith trials, discovery requests, depositions on how Colossus is used, tuned, and entered into analysis. I found testimony from these actual trials, which came from insurance claims adjusters with Colossus experience. And then, of course, I found information on the medical and legal mavericks in the respective industry, paving the way for more information and insight on this computer program called Colossus.
That's a really interesting story. And, you know, I think a lot has changed, obviously, technologically since 1999, 2000, 2001, up till today. And, you know, over the years, you've learned of a few different computer software systems, as there are, you know, numerous insurance companies out there, you know, from your mom and pops to your big, you know, corporate insurance companies. So I'd love it if you could kind of talk a little bit about, how many of these computer software systems are out there, and what are some of the key indicators or differentials that each of them bring to the table?
Absolutely. Right now, there's currently 4 of the computer programs that we're aware of that are being used by most of these insurance companies. Number 1, of course, is Colossus, and they're owned by Computer Sciences Corporation in El Segundo, California. Number 2 is Claims Outcome Advisor by Insurance Services Office. Number 3 is Injury Claims Evaluator by Automatic Data Processing Incorporated. And then the 4th computer program is Injury IQ by a company known as Claim IQ. However, more is known on the oldest of the 4 computer programs, named Colossus. And just briefly, Colossus came to the United States in the early 1990s when Allstate purchased it or purchased the licensing right to use the program to adjust injury claims. In the late 1990s, the other 3 programs were created by some of the same programmers of the original Colossus program. However, all 4 computer programs are used worldwide and, generally speaking, look for the same value drivers on an injury claim. A value driver is a medical factor that increases the settlement or dollar amount on a particular injury. These computers are built to locate and analyze the intensity, frequency, and duration of all reported injuries, including symptoms, complaints, and any body part that is impaired or properly documented to be impaired underneath the AMA guidelines. It essentially does what a jury would do if they were given the tools to come up with a dollar value on a specific injury case.
So now, being software and really being a computer program, essentially they need a certain, set of data that gets input into it in order for it to return values to the claims adjusters. So essentially, what are these computer software programs looking for in order to give you the best claim settlement?
Right. They're looking for information. They're looking for specific medical information found only in the chart notes of the injured client. In the beginning of my legal career, I experienced the frustration of not having the proper or effective medical documentation on an injury case that could have been there. However, after researching what is needed for the claims adjuster's computer review, I discovered the power of effective medical documentation and the kind of medical documentation a good doctor has to do to unlock the value drivers in a given personal injury claim. So going back to a problem with Colossus is, the claims adjuster could miss a crucial piece of medical evidence or even ignore an important document that helps explain pain and suffering value to Colossus. Thus, this evidence is not put into the computer evaluation, so this action can skew to the detriment of an injured person the claim value the computer would have assigned for settlement had it been properly documented, by the doctors. This would then increase the chances of a lower settlement offer and the need to file a lawsuit, which ultimately drains time and costs on the injured person. And it's crucial your injury attorney is familiar with Colossus and the other computer programs to have a plan as to how he or she combats this reality.
And to kind of put this all together and to really paint a picture into the people listening, into their minds of how this software kind of comes to play in the real world, I'd love it if you could share a story or a case study or give an example of where this software played a key role, either positively or negatively, for maybe one of your clients or just a general example.
Yeah, if you don't have the information and the other party is using the computer program, it can be detrimental to the case review, which will help increase the chances that a lawsuit would have to be filed. So I would say that I always assume the computer program is on an injury case when I have a client, and if there's not, State Farm claims publicly that they don't use any computer programs, and they're the largest insurer of cars in the United States. Every 3 out of 5 cars, I think, are insured by State Farm. But I've heard through, those, it's a lot. I heard through those in the know that they are now using Colossus for the state of Texas. I don't know if I can't confirm or deny that, but I've heard it. But I've also heard if they use it in Texas, they'll use it in California, and then they'll just go from there. But if you haven't, it's really crucial that the person listening to this program, if they have a lawyer and they're going through the process, they need to really ask their lawyer the questions about the computer programs and what the plan is if there is one on their case. The lawyer should have a workable knowledge of the programs being out there. Most lawyers know about Colossus. I would say less than 2 or 3 or 5% of them know about the other 3 programs. They essentially do the same thing. There's different calibrations, but the plan that the lawyer has in place in terms of helping the doctors know what to look for what to document, what to put into the chart notes to make sure that this communication of these value drivers is being properly communicated. That is really the key to solving this mystery with these programs. That's really crucial.
Yeah, I think that really put it into the minds of the people listening today to see really how important that this software could play a role in getting some of their medical expenses covered and really getting back on the road to recovery and rehabilitation and everything that's involved in being in an accident. And as we wrap up part 2, again, I encourage everyone to have their action guides out and go along with Mark as he explains everything and, again, apply it to the things that are happening in your life, in your case, or in the case of a friend or a family member or a loved one. In part 3, we're going to be talking about how the claims adjuster actually implements these systems into their daily practices. So, again, thank you for listening to part 2, and we'll see you again in part 3.